Guys, what's going on? James here, and before the start of this video I wanted to say shout out to Jonathan Bailey, who recently became my latest Patreon backer. If you guys are interested in giving to the Patreon page, it'll be down in the link in the description below. So without further ado, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. I needed an idea for today's video, so I decided that okay, I was gonna go check out some Facebook groups, I'm gonna go check out some comment sections, and I think I have a topic for today's video. Should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trade for Khalil Mack? Now, let me explain why this is even a question in the first place. So, the Oakland Raiders don't want to play Khalil Mack right now, and Khalil Mack wants to be paid right now. Now, I can't exactly remember if a holdout is still going on or it isn't. I think there was a holdout going on for a good chunk of time, but right now, the Raiders just are not interested in paying Khalil Mack. They don't want to pay him. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and I'll get to his accolades in a minute, but John Gruden's in. John Gruden says, you know what, I don't want to pay you that much, Khalil Mack. We're going to be like really rough. We're really going to try and hardball you into us giving you the money that we want to give you rather than the money that you want us to give you. Khalil Mack's like, dude, no, pay me what I pay me. I'm like one of the best defensive players in the league, if not, you know, the best defensive player in the league, you know, and right now they're kind of at a standstill, and so the rumors have been surfacing of teams trading for Khalil Mack. Should these teams try and trade for him? Should they not? Have talks happen? Have talks not happen? And the Buccaneers have been one of the teams who have been linked to a possible trade with Khalil Mack. Now, I want to go ahead and first want to explain the good for Khalil Mack, okay? Now, Khalil Mack's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a 2-time first-team All-Pro. He was the Defensive Player of the Year in 2016. He won the Bucs Award in 2016. I actually have no idea what award that is. And he was he was on an All-Rookie team in 2014. And he's only 27 years old, and he is arguably the best pass rusher in the entirety of the NFL. Maybe you could say that Von Miller's better, but for age and whatnot, Khalil Mack's really freaking good. So, you know, it makes sense to try and trade for him, right? Especially considering how, you know, he wants a lot of money. Maybe the Bucs could give him a lot of money. You know, he's one of the better pass rushers in the league. Why wouldn't you want to trade for the best pass rusher in the league? You know, it sounds like wonderful. And if he were to come to the Bucs, the Buccaneers would have the best freaking pass rush in the league, hands down. And he would do wonders for the defense. You know, it just adds. You go from having, you know, you would have the best pass rusher in the NFL on your team, with an improved secondary and one of the best linebacking cores in the league. You know, this seems like a pretty slam dunk, open and book case. You know, why wouldn't you want to trade for Khalil Mack? Well, let's start getting into the reasons why you shouldn't trade for Khalil Mack. So, the first reason is the most obvious reason. You have to pay him a crap ton of money. Money that the Buccaneers don't really have, or they shouldn't be spending on, you know, Khalil Mack. Because if you give Khalil Mack the money he wants, that means that very likely guys like Quan Alexander, Ali Marpet, Donovan Smith, all three of those guys could walk because you just don't have the money to pay them. I would maybe lump Jameis Winston in there as well, but that's, you know, that's another question. You'd probably assume that they would pay Jameis Winston at least, but Quan could walk because you don't have enough money to pay him. Ali Marpet and Donovan Smith, you just wouldn't have enough money to pay all these guys. You're giving out these gigantic contracts. I think the only way that you would be able to make all of that work is if you start cutting some big salaries. So you would have to get rid of Jason Pierre-Paul. You'd have to get rid of Vinny. You know, you'd probably have to get rid of either Jason Pierre-Paul or Vinny Curry. You'd have to get rid of DeSean Jackson. You'd have to, you know, cut a couple of these players who, yes, they have big contracts, but they're really freaking important to the team. DeSean Jackson has had a wonderful training camp so far, and a wonderful offseason. He's definitely proved me wrong about trying to get rid of him and trying to trade him and whatnot. And he's definitely proving to be a very useful piece for the team. Jason Pierre-Paul, you just traded for a third-round pick, and Vinny Curry, you just signed to a big contract. So I completely understand, you know, the allure and whatnot of trading for Khalil Mack, but the players that you would have to get rid of, I think, is just too much, because all that work that you had just put into the defensive line, this whole offseason that you just spent improving guys and, getting more pieces for that defensive line, it'll almost essentially mean nothing. All of that work was for naught because you just end up trading for Khalil Mack in the end, and you get rid of one of those guys that you brought in to be your pass rushing guy. So that's the first problem, is definitely money. It's too much money. You'd have to get rid of some of your key pieces, which the Bucs, they shouldn't do. They should honestly keep the core of their team the way it is. You need to keep guys like Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston is the closest thing you have to a franchise quarterback right now. Ali Marpet's your best offensive lineman. Donovan Smith is better than most of the free agent left tackles that are out there, and he would certainly be better than, I would say, a rookie left tackle, at least to start off. You've spent so much time with Donovan Smith at left tackle, and he's finally starting to get going on some certain things. So to get rid of him and let him walk in a free agency after this season would be pretty sucky. And Quan Alexander is one of the better up-and-coming linebackers in the league. So to let potentially all four of those guys walk just because you're trading for Khalil Mack, now, that'd be a lot. That'd be a really tough pill to swallow, in my opinion. And you might have to even get rid of a guy like DeSean Jackson, or a guy like Vinny Curry or Jason Pierre-Paul, just to have enough money to bring in Khalil Mack and give him the contract he wants. So it's rough. That'd be very rough money-wise. The second thing that might not be a good thing to trade for Khalil Mack is how much you're gonna have to give up to get him. He's the best, arguably the best defensive player in the league. That's going to cost a lot. What do you have to trade to give up Khalil Mack? Especially considering that you're talking to Jon Gruden, the guy who you fired from the Buccaneers as the head coach. He's back with the Raiders, and now you're trying to make a trade with him? I don't know how well that's going to go over, because, he's probably still a little bit bitter about getting fired from the team. I'm sure that the Bucs gave, it would be really crappy. And Jon Gruden is a very shrewd negotiator. I'm sure, he doesn't mess around. He's no bullcrap. He knows what he wants, and he will not take anything else besides what he wants. So, what is even the starting price for one of the best defensive players in the league? Is it a first-round pick? I think that's the start of the conversation, is one first-round pick. That's the starting point. That's like, okay, we'll give you a first-round pick. It's like, okay, well, that's a start. You're going to have to tack on a lot more. I honestly don't know what you'd have to give up for Khalil Mack. I'll tell you this much, it would be a lot. You might even have to give up as much as 2 first-round picks and a decent starter. You're getting... You're basically getting a guy who... Khalil Mack's stats are crazy, okay? Can we talk about Khalil Mack's stats? Because his first year he had 4 sacks. Okay, that's fine. His second year he had 15. His next year he had 11. His past season he had 10.5. This guy is a double-digit sack machine, and he deserves to get the type of money he deserves. But that also means that you'd have to trade away a lot to get him. And Jon Gruden, he's going to want a lot. I don't know what you give up. Maybe you have to give up a guy like DeSean Jackson and a first-round pick, but that's stretching it, man. That's a lot. You're giving up... Like I said with the Earl Thomas video, I don't like giving up a lot of assets, especially draft picks. I think the Buccaneers need to keep all of their draft picks, just because of how valuable they are to me. Because, you keep on getting those assets, you keep on building them up. That means you'll have stronger starters and... building towards your future, and you'll also have stronger depth building towards your future. It's really important. Now, taking draft picks out of it, if you just had to trade away, player for player or whatnot, what player do you give up? I don't know. Gerald McCoy might be the start of the conversation, but you're giving up your best defensive lineman. That would be terrible. Maybe you have to give up Lavonte David. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think one of those two guys would get the conversation started, and that would really pique their interest, I think, is if you said, we'll give you Gerald McCoy or Lavonte David, then I think that's when you start getting into that, okay, now this is a pretty interesting trade situation. But you shouldn't do that, because you're giving up one of the 2 best players on your team. You shouldn't do that. You're just mortgaging, you're just screwing yourself over for the long run, because this guy, Khalil Mack, he basically wants essentially like quarterback money. So I completely understand the appeal of trading for Khalil Mack. I get it. but it doesn't make sense money-wise because you're going to have to give him a gigantic contract, which would result in a lot of key pieces for us leaving, and it doesn't make sense in terms of trade value-wise. What are you going to give up to get Khalil Mack? The NFL's a really shrewd business sometimes when it comes to trading for players. You wouldn't be able to get Khalil Mack easily, in my opinion. It would at least take a first-round pick and something else. Another high-tier pick. Maybe it would take 2 first-rounders just to get the conversation started. That's what I think. That's what I think. I don't know. It would be a really tough situation. But let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comment section below. Should the Buccaneers trade for Khalil Mack? And if they should, if you guys think they should, what should they give up? And how would you try and solve the cap situation? You know, maybe you're okay with letting a guy like Donovan Smith or even like James Winston walk, you know, and that's fine. You know, that's another option. But me personally, I want us to keep all of our guys that we've spent the past couple of years building towards, and I think it would just be a really bad decision to trade for Khalil Mack because it would mortgage our future for sure. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Should the Bucs trade for Khalil Mack? And if they should, what do you think they should give up for him? You know, let me know your opinions about all this down in the comment section below. I do hope you all enjoyed this video. And as always, I will see you in the next video, guys. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now. See ya, and go Bucs.